The number actually sounds low. Let's keep in mind that that number doesn't include the missing. Um, that these are the bodies counted. There are many thousands more missing. When a building goes down, they're in the rubble. Um, for all those Americans out there that rally around 9/11, you know what happened with those buildings when they came down, how difficult it was to account for the numbers. It's happening right now. This is what's happening is a war crime of unimaginable scope and scale. I mean, no, first of all, it is imaginable. It's real. It's happening. It's not unimaginable. It's right there in front of us, guys. They're literally leveling a city. They're leveling, neighborhoods filled with civilians. This is the most despicable behavior imaginable, but it wasn't unpredictable. Clayton, Israel since 2006 has articulated this very policy. Why is the world only waking up now to the fact that it is official Israeli policy to punish the civilian population of an entity that they have violent disagreement with? In 2006, the commander of Israeli forces in the north, when fighting Hezbollah, instituted what he called the Dahiwa principle. Dahiwa is a neighborhood in West Beirut that was leveled by Israel, leveled, flattened. They slaughtered the civilian population there because he said they will pay the price for Hezbollah daring to stand up and beat our troops on the ground. See, Israel can't do a fair fight, man on man, soldier against soldier. They can't do that because if they do that, they lose. The only way Israel can win is to collectively punish the civilian population in a vain effort to get them to submit. It didn't work in 2006. It didn't work in 2008 when they instituted the Dahiwa principle on Gaza for the first time. 2010, 2014, 2018, 2020, 2021, and now 2023. It's been going on forever. The Israelis are the greatest mass murderers in modern history. That's the truth.
So when you have this, what's being portrayed as sort of this errant heritage minister from Israel, who then Netanyahu suspends this weekend for saying they would drop a nuclear bomb on Gaza, that's not really an errant heritage minister. That is really a sentiment that is carried by many Israelis. I've spoken to a number of Israelis who've told me specifically they feel the same exact way, that there is no daylight at all between Hamas and Palestinians in their mind, and they feel that there is no solution but the destruction and the wiping out of Gaza. Those are their words telling us that.
Well, the only thing that this minister was errant for was openly acknowledging the existence of an Israeli nuclear weapons program. That's what he's in trouble for, not for articulating in favor of the death of Palestinian civilians. It's official Israeli policy to kill Palestinians officially. He would never get in trouble for that. Why? I mean, we have the Minister of Defense of Israel saying the same thing. We have the Chief of Staff of the Army saying the same thing over and over again, how if you didn't take advantage of the nice little leaflet dropped by the Israelis telling you to move south, you are treated as an enemy combatant there. That is an open, gross violation of international law. Why the United States continues to have diplomatic relations with Israel right now is beyond me. Because if any other nation behaved this way, we would sever relations. We would hold them to account. There would be hell to pay. But because Israel has literally bought out the U.S. Congress, and Clayton, this isn't anti-Semitism speaking, Benjamin Netanyahu openly brags about this. AIPAC openly, that's the American Israeli Public Affairs Committee, the pro-Israeli lobby that dominates Washington, D.C., they openly brag about owning Congress. When the current Speaker of the House made his first presentation to a nation waiting for congressional leadership to resolve the numerous issues that befuddle our country, the first thing he said, the first order of business, was money to Israel. So here we are with Israel behaving in the worst way possible, and we do nothing about it. Shame on us. I mean, we know what Israel's going to do. They've told us what they're going to do. They've done it. This is not unprecedented. It's what Israel does. It's not what we do.
Is the Biden administration then willfully ignorant about it? Because Kamala Harris this weekend, of course, comes out and says, she posted an Instagram video where she says, we're going to make sure that they're really taking care of and protecting civilians. We're making sure we're monitoring that, making sure that they're going to protect civilians, and we're working with them on that. And that's a concern of ours. And I've heard that from a number of Biden administration officials at the State Department last week, saying the same thing, that we're confident that Israel is making sure that civilians won't be harmed in this. So that's it, Scott. That's all you need to know. Kamala Harris has spoken. They're confident that no civilians will be harmed in this.
Yeah, and yet we're continuing to fly C-17 aircraft into Israel, offloading the munitions that are used by the Israeli Air Force, flying American-provided aircraft to slaughter these Palestinian civilians. Kamala Harris is a liar, a hypocrite, but she's a politician. Her lips move, she lies. Joe Biden, the same thing. Look, I can guarantee you this, that it's someday down the road when, archives are declassified, you will be seeing the hypocrisy of the Biden administration in full view, as behind the scenes, they are having conversations. And I guarantee you what the conversations are. They're very critical of Israel. How can they do this? Bibi's gone crazy. He's gone wild. He won't listen to us. There's nothing we can do. Well, there is something you can do, Kamala. Terminate all assistance to Israel. Terminate it right now. Tell the Israelis not another airplane lands until there's a ceasefire. And during that ceasefire, get all the humanitarian aid into Gaza that needs. And during that ceasefire, an American delegation will come to Israel and take over your targeting cell. You will never drop another American-made bomb using an American-made aircraft on Gaza unless we personally approve the target. And if you don't like it, we're done with you. That's how you take control. That's called leadership. But we won't do that because Israel bought Congress a long time ago.
And now we're hearing that, well, Hamas is not destroyed. And when will this happen where they feel like they are close to wrapping up some sort of an operation to get Hamas? So U.S. officials this weekend, according to the New York Times, saying that despite massive bombing and this ground invasion of Gaza, the Pentagon believes that Israel has not come close, not even close, to taking out Hamas's leadership. So is this the New York Times sort of doing the dirty work for the Biden administration, painting a picture here that they're not anywhere close to the finish of this operation? They need to go into the tunnels. They need to do whatever they can. Can you talk about that sort of strategy and the sort of Pentagon sources leaking this to the New York Times, and we all get to read how Hamas is still out there?
Well, it's interesting. Talk about sources. Seymour Hersh, who I consider to be a very good friend, just published a piece in his Substack that makes it sound like Hamas is lost, that their leadership has been destroyed, that their food supply is turning rancid. They're going to all suffocate because of a lack of oxygen. That's a source speaking to Seymour Hersh. It's 100% wrong. Hamas, if people don't understand this, by deconstructing what happened on October 7th. Hamas is a much better organization, a much stronger organization, a much more capable organization, a much more professional organization than anybody had given them credit for. What they did on October 7th was one of the most skillfully executed military operations in modern history. Literally a David attacking a Goliath, which is sort of ironic given who they're attacking. But they have planned for the Israelis. The Israelis have walked into a Hamas trap. The Hamas trap is very complex. It's not just about the military situation on the ground. It's about the geopolitical situation globally. Hamas has won this war already. Has already won. Why?
Yeah, when you see tens of thousands of protests in streets.
Hundreds of thousands, millions around the world. Hamas has flipped the script. No one's talking about October 7th. That's the strategic mistake that Israel made. Just like the United States made a strategic mistake after 9/11. When the world rallied around us, instead of taking advantage of that to destroy the ideology of hatred by promoting a balanced approach, a diplomatic approach to defeat, Al-Qaeda, by letting others defeat them. We said we will do this militarily. And look, Al-Qaeda has not been defeated because killing Osama bin Laden, killing Zuhawari, killing other Al-Qaeda leadership doesn't destroy the ideology. The bombing we've done made Al-Qaeda stronger and spread even more. Israel is made the same mistake. Had they, on October 8th, secured the border, and then ask the question, how did this happen? Why did this happen? And we want the world to rally with us as we seek to find a solution to this. There would be millions of people in the streets today demonstrating in support of Israel and against Hamas. But Israel did what everybody knew they were to do because it is their doctrine to do it, to bomb. They have not destroyed Hamas. Hamas is planned for a 90-day campaign. They have sufficient resources underground for 90 days of fighting. We are 30 days into this campaign, and Israel's already losing. Israel may be making progress above ground, but as every Israeli commander will tell you, we control nothing because you can't control above ground when below ground is Hamas, just like standing on an anthill. All you do is guarantee that the ants will come out and sting you and bite you. That's what Hamas is doing. It's a death by 1,000 cuts for the Israelis. Every day they lose more troops, more vehicles. They secure nothing, and they haven't even begun to move into the actual heavy urban areas. The Israeli army has lost. The Israeli politicians have lost. Benjamin Netanyahu is lost. He has no one has confidence. As we speak, there's demonstrators in front of his residence calling for his resignation. Normally, under wartime conditions, the nation rallies around their leader. Israel is not rallying around Bibi Netanyahu. He is a criminal. Remember, there's huge corruption charges that he avoided by rewriting the basic law to do away with an independent judiciary. He's the man who said, I am Mr. Security, but he was asleep on October 7th. So was his army. So is his government. Israel is a nation that is in absolute chaos because of the incompetence of Bibi Netanyahu. They aren't winning anything. They're losing everything. This is a huge victory for Hamas.
I just this weekend finished rereading the 9/11 Commission report. Went back to that, going back through Richard Clark's testimony, going back through the months leading up to what happened on 9/11. Security information being handed to the highest levels, to Condi Rice, et cetera. And it was fascinating to go back to that and think in terms of what we're seeing right now in Israel. Do you draw, I mean, you were there in the heat of it all. Do you draw any parallels, what happened on 9/11 ahead of time, but the ideology and what happened before October 7th?
The problem is I don't think, I mean, first of all, there is an absolute parallel between the failure of intelligence. We know, for instance, on 9/11, that we were collecting adequate information to draw a conclusion that Al-Qaeda was preparing to attack us. To see, I even put a presidential daily briefing in front of the president saying that very thing. But the failure was a lack of imagination on the part of the politicians who didn't want to undertake the difficult decisions, to act on this information. The Israelis were collecting all the information. Every tactical collector will tell you, we were reporting up the chain of command that Hamas is getting ready to do something, that Hamas is, something's happening. They even knew the date. On the night of October 7th, October 6th, October 7th, the senior Israeli leadership was meeting, the head of intelligence, head of the military, because they had reports from Israeli intelligence that Hamas is coming over that night. They're like, what do we do? Do we call the alarm? Well, at a minimum, what you do is you call the frontline troops and say, stand to, stand to. I mean, get everybody out, put them in their gear, get them online, get them ready, get the spotlights out. The enemy's coming over the fence. It's time to repel borders. They're like, no, don't raise the alarm. We'll talk about it in the morning. Well, they were talking about it in the morning, but they were talking about it a different way because it became true. They were taken by surprise. That's the failure. The big Israeli problem was that they had fooled themselves into believing that Hamas was incapable of launching this kind of attack, that Hamas had bought into the notion of governance. Well, Hamas was governing. What does a government do? Clayton, I mean, this is just a simple question. What does a government do when their people are oppressed, when their people are tortured, when their people are bombed, when their people are arrested, raped, murdered? A government stands up and defends them. So Hamas is a government dedicated to serving the population that elected them in. And that service is to liberate them from the Israeli oppressor. What happened on October 7th was the purest form of governance, because it was a government stepping in and standing up and fighting on behalf of an oppressed people against an occupier that refuses to change the way it does business.
And now, and I'll get you out here on this guy, which is the total destruction of Gaza. So images being shared this morning showing a comparison between Hiroshima and Gaza, and you'd be hard pressed to tell the difference when you look at these images. I mean, what's what city's what, and now the millions. There's all sorts of plans and rumors and speculation, I guess, but different plans that have emerged. 500,000 to Canada. Being pushed out into Ireland, into the deserts. Will the Palestinian people ever come back to the Gaza Strip, or is this done?
I don't think the Palestinian people are leaving Gaza. I think they're there to stay. I think the Palestinian people would rather have all 2 million of them die under Israeli bombs than be turned into a diaspora. That is a defeat for Palestine, because once you leave, you will never come back. You will never come back because the world doesn't care about you. The only reason why the world is talking about Palestine today is because Hamas attacked on October 7th. And the only reason why the world is turned on Israel is because the Palestinian people have stood there and say, bring it on. We got this. Yeah, they cry. Who doesn't cry when your children are slaughtered and butchered? But these aren't the people who are surrendering. These are people who are becoming stronger and stronger and stronger in the face of the Israeli aggression. The Palestinian people won't leave Gaza. It is Palestine, by the way, because to do so is the defeat of their cause. They are committing some of the greatest acts of bravery by refusing to yield to Israel. People blame Hamas, but stop blaming Hamas. Start blaming Israel. Hamas isn't dropping the bombs. Israel is. Hamas is standing up for the rights of the Palestinian people. It's Israel that oppresses these rights. For people to sit here and blame this on the people of Palestine, you're being used as human shields. You can't be used as a human shield in your own home. In your own home that has been occupied by Israel, dominated by Israel. You aren't a human shield. You are a prisoner in an open air concentration camp. So no, I don't think you're going to see anybody. Look, even the king of Jordan, who is as closely linked to Israel as you can possibly imagine, has said that the eviction of the population from Gaza would be tantamount to a declaration of war, and Jordan would treat it as such. Israel has lost, Clayton. There will be a lot of fighting left. There will be a lot of destruction. There will be a lot more death. But Israel can't flip the script on this. They have gone down a path that inevitably leads to their defeat. The question is how great this defeat will be. Because at the end of the day, there's going to be a Palestinian state. The longer Israel continues this conflict, the less control they'll have at the negotiating table where a Palestinian state is created, because the scope and scale of their defeat and their humiliation would become apparent to all. The big thing that Israel has going for it is the mythology of Israeli exceptionalism, the mythology of Israeli superiority, the mythology of an Israel that cannot fail. Well, there ain't nothing exceptional about an Israeli. They die just like everybody else. There is no superiority here. They have the greatest technology in the world, and they're getting slapped around by Hamas and by Hezbollah. And the notion that Israel is too big to fail, they're failing right now. This could be the end of the of political Zionism if Netanyahu continues to sail Israel down these stormy waters. It could be very, very bad for Israel in the future.